Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. Thank you for tuning in. This episode is with Phil Miller. He is a therapist, licensed, in case you were wondering. Great guy. I've gotten to know him a little bit, and we had a great conversation about a variety of topics. We talked about Phil's background, his therapy practice, that he works with, and couples counseling, individual therapy, men's mental health, therapists, having therapists, challenges with getting licensed in different states, insurance, and we also talked about addiction and supporting clients that he has with suicidal thoughts, and the importance of presence and empathy in mental health. Overall, this was an awesome episode. I'm a little biased. This is episode number 89 of the Modern Day Overthinker podcast with Phil Miller. Get started. Welcome everyone to the Modern Day Overthinker podcast. My name is Collin and I'm your host. Today's guest is Phil Miller. He is a therapist. He specializes in many things. I'll have him do an intro real quick. But Phil, it's good to have you here, man. Where are you calling me from?
Hey, Colin, it's good to see you again. Thanks for having me. I am just outside of Grand Rapids, Michigan, so kind of on
Okay.
the the lower west side um, of the state. Live here with me and my wife and kids, and look forward to chatting with you today.
So, yeah, I was gonna say Grand Rapids, but I was like, maybe I'll let him say where he's at. But
That's the word that probably the space where most people know. We live just outside of there, but yeah, Grand Rapids is kind of an area people know.
FedEx. That's how I know it. That's how some people know it. That's how
Yeah.
I know it, because I have a buddy that works at FedEx. Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah. So you do couples counseling and you also do individual counseling. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I went to Western Michigan for my master's, and they had a dual track there where you could be a licensed professional counselor and then also a licensed marriage and family therapist. So I have both, and so yeah, I see a lot of individuals, but really my passion is working with couples and families. So it's definitely not uncommon to have multiple people in my office at the same time.
What's the most people you've had in your office at the same time for a session?
Five, I think, and then
Five?
me included.
So
Yeah,
is
I
it
think
like
it was.
the parents and kids, or
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
okay, that makes sense. I didn't even think about that. I was like, who else would, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yep.
But what would you say is the most common? I think I talked to you about this because we met last fall. We were both dealing with our own stuff, anxiety. Gotta love it. But I think we talked about this because I remember talking to you the first time I met you, and I asked you about like the number one issue couples have or why they're in your office. And I don't want to answer it for you, but I want to see if I'm right. What's the main issue you usually see people for? Like, the most
Yeah.
common?
Yeah. So, I mean, usually when the referrals come in, I mean, it's almost always some form of communication.
I was
And
gonna say communication as the key word. Yeah.
yeah, and communication is about as specific and vague as it gets. But a lot of times couples come into counseling. I think it's, hey, we just haven't been connecting. Just we've kind of fallen, maybe to our own separate ways a little bit, and we're having a hard time connecting. That's usually it. Now, there's oftentimes too where people will reach out because of affairs or other, more
Real serious stuff. Yeah.
yeah, more serious stuff. And therapy can absolutely work for, I mean, pretty much anybody, depending on the mindset. But I would say probably the most common is just, hey, we're having a hard time communicating without maybe arguing, or just, can you help us see maybe the other person's perspective?
Yeah. So you're kind of like a mediator sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. That's part of it.
Part
I
of
am
it.
trained. I am trained in a model, a specific couples model. It's called emotionally focused therapy, or EFT for short.
Okay.
And really, the goal of EFT is just trying to get to maybe more of those like deeper, softer emotions, more of the kind of those longings of, are you there for me? Can I trust you? And so a lot of couples therapy is kind of getting past like the surface stuff and more to like what's that longing for that other person.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I could go a lot of ways with this one, but are most of the couples married, or is it kind of split? Kind of like some of them are married, some of them are engaged, some of them are dating for a
Um,
long time, domestic
yeah, so
partners.
most of them are married. There's
Okay.
definitely there is stuff that I use for couples who want to specifically do like premarital.
Mm.
There's some stuff that I'll use for that, but yeah, definitely most of them are married. Um, I I've kind of always had it in my head that like if you're dating and you're having this much conflict already, might
Probably
want
not
to.
gonna work out. Yeah.
It's gonna be hard, but
Yeah.
and I've had some couples, which have been actually some that I've loved working with, that maybe have been married for 6 months to a year, and maybe it's just been a little bit difficult, and they really want to, find a good establishment. I mean, I always tell people it's a lot easier to work on things when they're maybe just starting to drift off
Mm.
versus five alarm fire.
When it's on the fire, when it's on fire, yeah. So when they come in, do you think they I was gonna ask you, oh yeah, this is what I was gonna ask you. So I was talking to someone the other day, and they said that I forgot how she worded it, but basically post marriage like depression or kind of conflict is she said is definitely a thing. I don't know if she was just talking about her marriage or if she was just saying that that's a thing. Like it's kind of like the honeymoon phase is over type of thing. Is that really something you run into?
I don't know if I've ever heard it quite phrased like that, but I think in my own, when I work with couples, I think especially for ones who maybe haven't lived together before they've gotten married, I mean, it's a
Mm,
huge adjustment.
yeah,
And I mean, you have all these planning things that you got to do for a wedding, and then the day finally gets here, you do it, and you get, maybe go on your honeymoon, and then you come home, and then it's like, oh, we have to learn how to actually live together. And even couples who have lived together for a while, even after they get married, there's this adjustment. I always tell people it's kind of crazy that we take two people who are far from perfect and we put them in close quarters and expect them to figure out how to do life. And
yeah,
it's hard. Um, and then, even as a society, or even, you watch the movies, and, it's just kind of like there's always needs to be this spark, or my soulmate, or all this. And it's like, no, there's a lot of life that's just doing life. and
yeah,
um and so learning how, I mean, I help couples a lot, learning how to, love each other on the good days and love each other when it's hard. um, so yeah, but there's definitely an adjustment for sure.
yeah. I would assume so. And there's maybe like certain year marks and things like that. Um, like when you first hit like 10 years or something like that. I'm just guessing here. But as far as individuals go, when you see an individual, what's your main focus on when it comes to individual therapy?
um Individual therapy, as much as I love doing couples and families, I mean, individual work has got its parts that I love as
Oh
well.
yeah.
I still work with individuals from a what we call a systems perspective. So we're talking a lot about the other people in their world, whether it's family members, coworkers, just kind of getting a sense of where they fit in their system. um, but when it comes to individuals, it's a wide range. Couples and families kind of come in with similar issues. Um, Individuals could be anything from, you know, anxiety, performance issues to depression. I don't do a lot of trauma work because that kind of has its own training and
Mm,
certification.
yeah.
I work with a lot of men with porn issues as well, just because a lot of them I find want to talk to a guy, and so
Oh
I
yeah.
work a lot with
It's
that.
tough to talk to a female about that kind of stuff. Yeah, I've ran into that, like not necessarily porn, but anything sexual, because I have a female therapist, and I'm just like, and she doesn't care. She's super cool, but like I know what you're talking about. That's
And
definitely
well, and
a
even
big
as
thing.
therapists, we're trained, to work with all different, kinds of people, all different sorts of
Yeah,
issues, and I tell all my clients, like, there's nothing you're going to tell me that is going to shock me or make
yeah.
me feel uncomfortable. But I do know that for sure that there are clients. I mean, for example, most teenage girls, they don't come on my calendar, because they don't want to talk to me. I think I've seen two teenage girls in 10 years, and it was because they requested a guy, but they see women because that's just where they feel comfortable. And that's great.
Yeah.
If one of the top things in therapy is just what's your comfort level with your therapist. Um, and if you kind of just feel like they get you and they connected, the outcome is going to be way better, um, than if you just are like, person's okay.
Yeah, you have to have a good connection with the therapist because I've gone through quite a few, and yeah, I'm lucky to have the one I have. Sounds like you have your own therapist. We talked before we got on, and you got real lucky with finding him and connecting, and we both have therapists that calls us on our shit when something's lingering out there that we don't want to talk about, and then they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna talk about this," and I'm like, and you're just like,
Yeah.
"Ah, great,
Well,
fantastic."
and the truth of the matter is that most therapists either have gone to individual therapy or marriage counseling themselves or are currently in it. I mean, um, I tell my own clients, I don't shy away from it. I tell them,
Yeah,
like, I have my own therapist. I've had it for a long time, and it's funny because I had a client one time say to me, "Well, yeah, I bet you got to go to therapy to talk about like all the clients you see." And I'm like, never once.
no,
Not at all. I go to therapy because I have a wife, I have two kids, I have a career, I have my own genetic makeup,
yep,
and
my life, yeah,
I've got my life, I've got my emotions, and if I'm gonna, I am a huge believer in therapy, and but if I'm gonna help people, like, I need help too. So, um,
yeah.
therapy's great.
I doubt any client has been like, "Oh, he's in therapy too. Maybe I should run." Do you have
No,
that? Did you have that in the back of your mind when you first started? Like, oh, I don't want to tell anybody because they might think I'm not a good therapist.
absolutely. There were, I mean, that was kind of in the back of my mind. I about 6, 7 years ago. I mean, I've had anxiety most of my life. That's
Yeah,
nothing new. I had it as a child. I've had it on and off throughout my life, and it was about 6 or 7 years ago. I hit some really tough spots, and I just said, I can't do this on my own anymore. And I think that was probably the hardest part. Is it's like, well, I mean, I help everybody all day long. Like, I don't have time,
yeah,
one, for me, but two, like, I think the hardest part was just being like, well, like, I help people. Why can't I help myself?
yeah.
Um, and
It's
then,
like I have all this knowledge in my head, like, and I can't fix myself.
and it drove me crazy. And then
I
and I
bet.
think it was somebody had, I don't know, it was probably 6, 7 years ago. Somebody just said to me, they're like, you do realize, like, doctors, like medical doctors, have to go to somebody when they're sick. And I'm like, huh. I'm like, why didn't I think of that before? It blew my mind. But
Yeah,
same thing is, it's like you can have all the knowledge in the world, but you still need other people's help. Um, and and so I started doing my own therapy, and it's been such a great just helps me process my own stuff. And I think
Yeah.
in turn makes me a better therapist just because I'm in a better spot.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'd be shocked. I bet the percentage of therapists that have therapists is like probably 75%. If it was any lower than that, I'd be pretty shocked because and a lot of therapists, not all of them, seem to get into it because they had issues of their own or their family had issues or it hits home to them. It's really close to them, and that's why they're passionate about it. And I can kind of tell from the therapists I've seen people who are more passionate than others. And you can tell, like, oh, okay, this person isn't just, it isn't a job for them. It's a profession. I like the word profession. Um, and that seems to be the case with you as well as my therapist, and I've had other therapists in the past. And you can just tell when it's there.
Yeah, I mean it's huge. I mean I I tell clients I'm like, yeah, I have to get paid to pay my bills, but if I could do this for free, I would.
Yeah,
Um, and because yeah, you're exactly right. It's just kind of who you are, and I the way I do therapy, the way I believe people change is just, I tell people I get in the mess with them. Like if I challenge couples or individuals to go to, these really dark or emotional states, I go right with them. So I mean, in my office, we don't really talk about stuff per se as we do it like we're experiencing it.
hmm
So it's not uncommon for people to be, whether it's crying or very angry or even shut down, because we're not just talking about it, we're actually in it. And I just, that's the way I you see people change is when you're willing to go with them to those hard spots that maybe nobody else will. And
yeah.
then
Go
when
in the
you go in there,
trenches.
you go in the trenches and you don't judge. I mean, I think
Yeah,
that's the big thing. I mean, we live in a world of constant judging, and it's like, can we get to maybe what got you to a certain decision, what emotional state? So, um, yeah, I agree with you. And I will say, being in this profession, um, because I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's not an easy thing
yeah. It
to
can be
get into.
stressful.
Oh yeah. Most therapists that I work with, I mean, all the ones I work with at Alliance, but even like my colleagues outside of the group practice, most of them are very passionate what we do. Every once in a while, you'll get a dud that maybe just doesn't, but honestly, they don't last in the profession long, um, because you have to
Yeah,
believe it.
yeah. That makes sense. And as far as to where you're at now to get your degree, do did you have to get a master's then?
Yeah,
Okay.
so um, you have to get a bachelor's. And the bachelor's gets you into you can apply for a master's program. The reason you have to have a minimum of a master's is you have to take state licensing tests, like big tests, to be able to apply for a license. Because in this profession, you have to have a license, you have to have insurance, you have to have all of that. Um, so yes, you gotta have a master's. Some people get a PhD,
hmm
but you don't have to necessarily do therapy.
As far as licensing goes, you're obviously licensed in Michigan. How does it go with leading license in other states? And is that process just a pain depending on the state? Some are easier than others, or
So you just asked the $1 million question that there are a lot of therapists that are working with legislator on. Um, the rule honestly is really quite stupid in the sense that I could be on the face of the moon, and as long as you are my client are in the state of Michigan, I can be wherever. But in reverse doesn't work.
yeah, that's not,
So
yeah,
so what I know, a lot of the advocates are pushing for is more of that, as telehealth has become much more of a thing
Mm.
since COVID, that it really, it doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
whether you're sitting, on the other side of town or in a different state really shouldn't matter. Um, but right now, to your point, like I would have to call the licensing board in Iowa and say, what do I need to do? And some of them require you to take classes or do all this stuff. It's just silly,
Yeah.
especially in a profession where there's already a shortage of therapists, um,
And psychiatrists. Yeah,
and
both.
psychiatrists. Yeah, um, don't make it harder, make it easier.
I agree with you. I didn't even think about that. I'm like, I'll have to see where I can sign that petition. Because yeah, I've ran into that issue. Because my therapist is in Illinois. She's just licensed in Iowa, and we're trying to find a provider psychiatrist, and we were really struggling. She's like, between you being in Iowa and your insurance, I'm having a lot of trouble. I'm like, yeah, I know. And yeah, if I had the choice, I would have. Well, she probably would have said no, but a friend of mine, Jenna Overbaugh, who um who I know just from online, like just doing stuff on like Instagram. Uh, she used to be a therapist. Now she's still a therapist, but she does a lot of online virtual types of things, where people like will attend a seminar like virtually and does that kind of thing. And she's done really well with it. And she specifically does focuses on OCD, and like she's all about directly challenging stuff. Um, I'm pretty sure I don't want to say too much because I don't know what I'm allowed to say about her or not with her background and how I know her even better. But I will say that she is someone that I'd be like, damn, because for whatever reason, I've always vibe better with a female therapist. Figured that out, and direct, blunt females. That's that's who will get me to listen. I don't know if it goes back to me being in school or what it is, but or having strong women in my life growing up, but that's just the way it is. But yeah, the state lines thing is so stupid, and like where you're located, and this is a funny story. I almost thought it. I was thinking about if I couldn't find a provider. She's like, I can find you a provider in Illinois, no problem. But you live in Iowa. I go, I can be in Illinois in 10 minutes. I live right on the Mississippi River. I can just go to my friend Bailey's house and I'll be in Illinois and she can see me, right? She's like, technically, I was willing to try that if I had to. I don't know if the person would have been like cool with that 'cause it sounds sketchy, but at the same time, it's like, what do you want me to do? I don't have anyone around here.
Yeah, it's this weird gray area, like I said, that you're not going to find, I don't think, a therapist that's going to say, oh, I think it's a great idea that you only see people in your state. I, I mean, people are people, and
That doesn't make any sense.
it doesn't. And from what I understand, the only reason it's a thing is because just bureaucracy, insurance, liability. I mean, the thing is, the irony is that we all have to have liability insurance. So I pay every year for liability insurance. And my liability insurance company is not even in the state of Michigan. I
Yeah,
think it's either Pennsylvania or maybe Chicago. I don't,
yeah,
so it's like we're insured by people that's not even in our state.
yeah, that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah.
But those people can't probably profit as well as yeah, the insurance it has to do with insurance, I'm sure. Working with insurance companies myself, it's like uh, it's so I don't know, it started on the rabbit hole of
Necessary
that.
it's a necessary game, is what sometimes I call it. And
Yeah,
I will say this, at least for me, most dealing with most insurance companies, we have a biller that does a phenomenal job for us. But that I felt like 10 years ago when I started doing therapy, it was harder. Um, I think as therapy is becoming a little bit more
yeah, that's
common,
true.
it's not. I don't get a whole lot of insurance pushback. Every once in a while, you'll get an audit or, they'll say, "Hey, what's going on with this or that?" But for the most part, they don't question it.
That's good. Yeah, it's just the networks is the annoying thing to me. And certain insurance companies being easier to get in their network and some are really hard to get in their network. And it's like the patient doesn't know the difference. But as far as I wanted to get back into
Yeah,
talking about uh men's mental health. It's not men's mental health month, but it is mental health awareness month.
absolutely.
And the men seem to get overshadowed. I have a lot of female listeners, but as far as men's issues, you said porn's a big one.
Yep.
I'm not shocked there as a man. What's some of the other issues that you run into with men? And I'm sure you run into the issue of just men just opening up in general, just cracking that shell because they probably have walk in and they just like, they're used to, bottling it all up, and you got to be the guy that takes the hammer and kind of chisels away. So, what can you tell me about that?
So I'm gonna this probably be a little bit longer answer, but
That's
yeah,
fine.
one of the biggest reasons I got into therapy was, I'm very much a in the minority. I mean, I work with a lot of females. I mean, there's a lot of female therapists. They're phenomenal. I mean, there are definitely great guys, but there's less. And so, I mean, it was very
Okay.
common when I was in grad
Yeah.
school, like 23 women and like four guys. But I was really passionate about it because of what you just said. Obviously being a guy, I get the experience of being a guy. We guys are there's just this a little bit of a facade. And what I tell guys when they first sit in my office is I go, I want to set one thing straight. There is no such thing as a male feeling and a female feeling. It's just feelings. Now,
Yeah.
we may experience them maybe a little different or may express them, but emotions are emotions.
Hmm.
And a lot of guys, so I will get a lot of guys that do reach out, which is good. Some of them are a lot of them are encouraged by their wife um, to be there, but a lot of them will acknowledge they don't things are not going well, whether it's their job, relationships, whatever. But if I had to pick a couple topics, one of them is just what I would call it just like emotional communication. Their spouses are just feeling just starved for that connection.
Yeah.
And I tell a lot of guys, I'll get guys in their 40s or 50s that come in and they're really embarrassed that they don't know how to talk about emotions. They don't know how to use the right language. And I will tell them, like, I don't care if you're 3, 4 years old or you're 84 years old. If nobody's ever taught you the language of emotions, how are you supposed to know it? Um,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I start working with them on vocabulary. I start working with them on how to help with stuff. But I think communication's a big one. Anger is a big one. I do work with a lot of guys who have anxiety, OCD, perfectionism stuff, and it comes out as anger.
Yeah.
Um,
I bet.
and so for a lot of guys, it's giving them permission to like to feel, but like not just to feel, but to like communicate about it, and that
Yeah.
like it makes life better and easier. um, so just breaking a lot of the stigmas for sure with guys.
Yeah. I'm sure that's just, yeah, it can be a lot, especially probably the older they are, and if they haven't gone to therapy before. And what's like I don't know if you can answer this question, but what's like the oldest guy you've seen, like
Yeah, I
coming in like what age? If you had to ballpark it.
Yeah, for me, mid to late 60s.
Okay.
Um, um, Definitely have heard of stories from colleagues and others where you might get somebody in their 70s or maybe even their 80s. Um, but yeah, I definitely, even if I think of right now, I have a few that are in their mid 60s. And honestly, they are guys who, for a lot of them, and this I think is just I love working with them on this. Is a lot of them are near retirement and they're like they're very afraid of depression
Yep.
of like, hey man, I've gotten up for 40 years to my job, and in a couple weeks I'm going to be retiring, and I'm really worried about that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I love helping them explore what's next.
Yeah. Finding a passion or, filling all that time.
Mhm.
So much time. Yeah. And people are probably afraid because there's some statistics about, people who retire and they pass away like shortly after. And yeah. And then there's those people that work themselves to death. It's like, do you really want to work for the rest of your life, man? Like, I don't think you do. I don't think anyone really does deep down. Um, but yeah, I didn't even think about that. That fear of retirement. Yeah, I mean, I'm way away from it, but I can put myself in that headspace. Be like, yeah, after working somewhere for so long, or just working for 30, 40 years, whatever it is, and like the next day you don't have to do that for like the rest of your life. That is very weird. And as humans, we really strive off of routines, and changing that routine completely 180 has got to be real tough on a lot of guys. Have you seen guys go that have gone through it that you've actually stayed with them while they retired?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, a lot of them, will come in maybe a month or two in advance, and then that's usually like pretty frequent. Like we're probably meeting weekly, and
Okay.
then um, one of the big things I focus on with that group is just okay, you're not going to your job anymore, but what do we want to fill that time with, like in regards to like purpose? So maybe there are hobbies you haven't been able to get to, or for some of them it's kids and grandkids, and it's like okay, it it doesn't have to be this scary monster of like I'm not going to my job, I'm just going to something else, and so, yeah, a lot of times once they start getting into their retirement routine and they really find a way to like find that better balance from now I don't have to work 50 hours a week.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, they're usually in a great spot, and a lot of them will come maybe once every couple weeks to once a month.
Okay. Um, one other thing I wanted to bring up.
Mhm.
I don't know how much time you have left. I don't want to keep you too
Just
up.
keep going, dude. My kids are sleeping, man,
I
and my wife's probably enjoying some alone time.
nice. Um, but how how has it impacted your life? Just in general, becoming a dad, going from just you and your wife to, oh, there's this human we have to take care of, and now you have two humans you have to take care of. So I was just curious, as a potential dad myself in the future, what that's like and how that's completely, if you can even put that into words, like what it's like being a dad.
It's probably the greatest and the hardest thing you'll ever do. And I still remember, because I was a therapist, I don't know, 3 or 4 years before we had kids. Um, and because my wife and I waited till we were all masters and all that.
Yeah,
And I still remember to this day, the morning my daughter was born, a couple hours before she was born, my dad and I are having coffee at the hospital, and he just said to me, he goes, "Are you ready for your life to change forever?" And I was like, "Dad, that sounds like a Hallmark card." Like,
yeah,
and I'm like, yeah. He goes, I said, but like forever? And my dad goes, well, I think how old was I? I was 30, 20, 29, 30, somewhere in that range when I became a dad. And my dad goes, sitting with you. And I'm like, good point. Like, and it does. I mean, it changes everything. I mean, and I'll be honest with you, it has helped my mental health. It has challenged my mental health in ways. I mean, being a parent has at times created a lot of anxiety for me
Oh yeah.
because I don't know what's coming next. I don't like they're very unpredictable beings.
Yeah.
It's exhausting. I mean, but I mean, even before I came and was chatting with you, I was literally laying with my son, my 3 year old, and rubbing his back, singing songs because that's what he likes. And before that, I was laying with my daughter for a little bit. My wife and I try to tag team, and um, I think being a dad just it puts a lot of things into perspective about and we talk about mental health month. It puts a lot into perspective of the number one thing we need as just people is presence. My kids
Hmm.
don't care how I look. They don't care how my day was. They don't. They just did you show up today, Dad?
Yep.
And I think about that too, Colin. I think about that. As adults. I always tell people as adults we're just big kids. Um,
Oh yeah.
our needs are still the same in a lot of ways. And when a friend just shows up or a parent just shows up, they're not judging. They're not trying to tell you all the things you're doing right or wrong. They're there. How much that makes a difference. I mean, there's so many studies out there that talk about just the power of presence and what that does for mental health. Uh, and so I think that's probably my favorite part about being a dad is I can have the world's worst day. I walk in that door and they don't care. Um,
Yeah.
and so,
Like,
but it is hard. And things like postpartum depression for women obviously is huge, but also
yeah.
there's a lot of in my graduate work I did some reading and research on just the impact of like dads and anxiety after kids are born. You know, and the impact of that. So,
Be the protector, all that stuff.
protector, don't know what you're doing. I mean, uh, you feel helpless. Like here's your spouse and their or your partner, and they're going through this really hard time as a new mom, and you're like, I don't know what to
Yeah, I
do.
don't know. Yeah.
You know, so
And there's so many books and all that stuff, and it's just like, yeah, there's no book that could just, there's no Bible that for parenting or
no, and that's
manual, instruction manual, I should say.
and that's I'll be honest with you, that's why I got mad respect, mad props for single parents. I don't know how they do it. I mean, there are
Yeah.
so many nights my wife and I we tag team things, we help each other and stuff, and I we go to bed just flat out exhausted. I mean, major shout out to those single parents that have to figure this out on their own because I have a hard time figuring it out with my wife.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. I bet. I mean, yeah, it's good having, yeah, do you guys have a good cop, bad cop thing going on or no?
Uh, my wife
I'm
last my wife
just
last week
curious.
goes. My wife last week says to me, she goes, "You go, it's your turn with our daughter because I'm tired of always being the bad guy." I was like, "Yeah," and she definitely takes the lead on some of this stuff, and I always joke, I always joke I'm the B team. I love being I'm super involved with my kids and I love being that, but when it comes down to crunch time, they're gonna pick mom, and
Yeah.
then and that's great. I mean, they have such a bond with her, and that, and I think too. I mean, this would probably be a whole nother session, but like uh, seeing your kids start to present with your strengths, but also your areas that you struggle
Oh
with.
yeah.
My daughter is got the anxiety, or I think is definitely some of the anxiety, maybe even some OCD little tendencies, perfectionisms, and you go, she's mine.
Yeah.
uh, so
Yeah. That's one thing. Like, Do you run across any couples that it's just made me think of this? Do you run across any couples who are afraid of having kids out of fear of, you know, not being a good parent, not being good parents, or or they have mental health issues or some type of issue that they're afraid to pass on? Have you ever heard anything like that?
That's a great question. I don't think so, but I can guarantee it's out there. I mean, I've seen. I'm thinking right now. I've definitely seen some couples or some individuals obviously that are married that have chosen not to have kids, and
Hmm.
or just even have said like it's not a huge priority. Um, whether it's because they're into their career or they're just having fun, the two of them, and they're just content with that, and that's great. I don't I I'd have to think on that one, but none is coming to the top of my head. But
Curveball, through your curveball.
but that absolutely an interesting thought, and now that I'm wondering too if maybe it's even just with some people who maybe have some bigger mental health struggles, if that is a fear, maybe it runs in a family. Um,
Yeah, they don't want to pass on, whether they're like, addiction issues or mental health issues or fit or chronic illnesses of any kind. I thought about that personally. I'm just like, man, I, I need to make sure my partner is way more sane than me. you know,
well,
uh,
and to say to that, I mean, that.
but I don't really need to. It's just like I, yeah, just something I've thought about because it could happen. Could I deal with it? But also at the same time, it's like I've gone to therapy. I've done a lot of stuff. Like they're not gonna have anything I don't know about, more than likely.
And to that point, well, one, I mean, definitely marrying somebody that understands and cares about mental health is huge.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
my wife has been like super supportive, very raw, real, and just like understands that I have my good days and I have my days that I'm just off,
yeah,
and that is huge. But I will say this to your point. Um, my oldest is 6, and she's so much of me. And as I see some of the anxiety come up, and I see some of the conversations, there's a part of me that, I mean, I I, I don't want to say I enjoy the conversations because that feels weird, but it's more of just like, oh, honey, I if there's anybody in this world that gets it, it's me. And so
you're excited to be able to help.
and to step into that space of like I mean, I do everything I can. I don't push her away. I don't nothing. I go like almost, it's like you said earlier, that like let's just have a real conversation, because I get what you're throwing out and you get what I'm throwing out, because we
Yep,
both have some of the similar struggles.
exactly. Oh, mouth's getting dry. Uh, yeah, that's a good point. Like, I've been preparing for this. It's kind of like put
Yeah.
me in, coach.
Mhm.
I'm ready to go here. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've had those moments just with, just with friends in general, or even random strangers. Like, oh, I get it. Like, and you're like, oh, I can actually help this person. I can relate to this person. And that's a big thing. I think that's why recovery meetings, I go to recovery meetings. I think that's why they work for people, is because there's that common ground. And it's like, oh, you did this, like you felt like this, like I've been there, you know, or like I had cancer and I could have died and I still didn't relapse. That guy can talk to another guy who just got diagnosed with cancer who's like, I'm gonna die. Might as well. Why would I not relapse? And there's all kinds of crazy stuff like that. Because honestly, I've thought about that. I'm like, if I was given a death sentence, would I drink again? Like, there was, and I've heard one story that's wild, that there was this lady, she was on a flight, and they thought the flight was going to crash. and had been sober for a long time. She drank wine, and then the flight did not crash. And I'm like, oh man, that'd be the worst feeling ever. Just I'd be like, oh man, like you'd have to like go to a meeting if you stuck with it, or if you it could spiral you out of control. But I'm not sure whatever happened to that woman, or if it's just a wise tale that I've heard. But I think about that. It's like, yeah, addiction's a tricky one. It's probably something you deal with. It comes hand in hand with mental health. A lot of people, that's the outlet. That's the way to get away is bottle or pills or whatever it is. Um, especially, I don't know, especially I think with men because we just like bury stuff. It helps bury things for a while. I don't know. Am I making any sense here?
Oh yeah, I mean, and there I will say this, if there's anybody that's struggling with significant addictions, there is I mean, I know in the state of Michigan there's a acronym. I mean, I know there's letters after every therapist's
Yeah.
name. Um, Theirs is CAADC, and it's the drug and alcohol um, to become basically a certified drug and alcohol therapist, and
I
it's a
have
it's
I
a
have
hard thing.
friends that are doing that, working on that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so needed. I mean, life isn't getting less stressful, and for some people, that is what they turn to. Um, and I see people that are, whether it's even if they're not addicted, but whether they're drinking or doing drugs,
Abusing.
yeah, just
Oh,
using whatever. I The way I describe it is they're trying to shift an emotion for a while. I mean, because I mean, why else are people turning to something? They're trying to shift an emotion. They don't like the way this feels. The hard part is that when they're just shifting it, and then it comes right back. But yeah, those therapists are amazing. They do great work. Um, and yeah, I when somebody is struggling and struggle for a while, they're going to turn to something, and sometimes we hope it's something healthy, whether it's friends, family. But
exercise. I've seen some people go crazy with that.
yeah, and what at its core, what everybody's trying to do is just shift something that feels awful.
Yeah. Which, no matter what you choose, really, that awful is still going to be there in some way.
And
I mean,
oftentimes, when people pick the substances, then they compile the awful feelings with sometimes with awful behaviors. So now you've got
yeah,
awful feelings and awful behaviors, and it, I know there are a lot of people out there that just they feel like there's no hope, and my goodness, there is. I mean,
yeah,
in maybe some other time we can dive into a little bit more of the suicide topic, but
yeah.
that continues to be a real problem. Um,
I saw a billboard the other day that just said like, I think it just said "You matter" or something. It's just that simple. I was just like, the fact that we have to have billboards for this really just like proves that there's a huge problem.
and it's huge, and it's um, without going down a bunch of rabbit holes. I mean, a big part of it, is isolation, feeling alone,
Yeah,
feeling deeply alone. But like when you and I, met last fall, we were kind of chatting about similar stuff related to anxiety. I mean, one of the big messages that you and I would always talk about too is that like no matter how deep or painful or hard an emotion is, it doesn't last forever.
yeah.
And I have so much compassion and care for people who are in those deep spaces of thinking about ending their life, or like it doesn't get better. I mean, when you are in the depths of anxiety or depression or even grief, the idea of like that this won't be temporary.
Yeah, it doesn't seem real.
No, and temporary could be a couple years. I mean, it may not be, but the
The idea doesn't seem real though that it's gonna go away.
no, and
You get tricked.
and that like obviously I'm a therapist and I'm very passionate about that, but I tell people all the time, like, you don't need a bunch of letters after your name. You don't need master's degrees. You don't need any of that stuff to show up for people.
Mhm.
And just calling, checking in, hey, how you doing? I mean, I don't care how tech savvy we get. I don't think we're ever going to find anything that beats the way it is to sit down and have coffee with somebody. And I know this, like the new generation that probably get my panic attack sitting down face to face. But you know what? When we are in
Yeah.
each other's presence physically,
Yeah.
it does a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've noticed that just from working from home. I'm like, man, we were talking about that earlier. Um, yeah. So somebody that's in that space, besides that, the feelings don't last forever. What would you tell somebody, or what's your go-to thing to say? Like, if somebody's like, "Hey, man, I'm thinking about checking out." Like, what's your what's your message there that you would say to someone to try to get them to have a different perspective?
Well, I think I mean, it's kind of it's a yin yang balance a little
Yeah,
bit. Just as a therapist, there's like legal things I have to do,
yeah.
and
You have
so
to report things. Yeah,
report
depending
things.
on. Yeah,
The biggest thing though, that how I balance being a therapist and being human in that moment is, well, one, I don't ever let them leave my office alone. We would be calling a family member, a friend, um, somebody to be in that space with them, because again, when when you are in that space, it's very vulnerable.
yeah,
And in when I have coached, basically I call them support people in those roles, I'm like, I don't need you to really say anything fancy. Actually, I prefer you not. I would
yeah,
just rather you be there. Um,
yeah.
and because again, it can be unhelpful when people just be like, well, you got all this to live for, and everybody loves you, and you're so great, you're so
Yeah,
athletic. In that moment, they're not feeling that way.
yeah.
And so really it's a message of, I try to give a sense of confidence that says, let's work on this together. Like, as a therapist with your family, that's why I do so much family and marriage counseling, because it's like, how do we get your support people? But
Empathy sounds like.
huge, huge empathy, and knowing it doesn't matter the size of the struggle, struggling is struggling.
Yeah, yeah, that is crucial. Well, I think we'll kind of wrap up with that. I am trying to keep the episodes. I'm not Joe Rogan. I can't do 3-hour episodes. Um, but I appreciate you joining me today. It's been an awesome conversation and just catching up with you because I obviously haven't seen you in a half a year.